Oh no, what did she say?
Grace Randolph is suggesting that this would double the budget for Avengers Doomsday. So she's saying that Hollywood's plan to get Trump to create a federal tax incentive for filming in America has backfired. Instead, Trump has put a 100% tariff on any film produced outside the USA, including Hollywood's. Isn't Avengers Doomsday filming in London? That doubles the budget? Question mark.
No.
That's it. I mean, sorry, no. Valiant, just shut it down. Grace Randolph has spoken.
Renegade Online.
Oh no,
Grace Randolph is suggesting that this would double the budget for Avengers Doomsday because she's taking this to mean that there's a 100% tariff on any film produced out of the USA and that it's in regards to their production costs. So it would not be a tariff based on revenue, according to Grace Randolph, but rather it would be a tariff based on how much they spent on the production of the thing. So that
do you have? Is there a tweet? Wait, stop. Is there a tweet associated with this?
Yes, I didn't know if you want me to put Grace on the screen or not.
No. Yeah, I'm going to. I'm going to look it up right now. Hang on.
I've got it for you. Here's Grace. Okay, cool. So she's saying that Hollywood's plan to get Trump to create a federal tax incentive for filming in America has backfired. Instead, Trump has put a 100% tariff on any film produced outside the USA, including Hollywood's. Isn't Avengers Doomsday filming in London? That doubles the budget? Question mark.
No.
That's it. I mean, sorry, Valiant, just shut it down. Grace Randolph has spoken.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me go ahead and fix Grace Randolph, which is one of the things that we love to do here. And look, nothing personal against Grace Randolph, all candor aside, but she just, Grace, from me to you, honey, I love you, but stop calling your show movie math. Because
hello.
You math don't math half the time. But here's the thing. No, it won't double the budget. And let me explain why. Okay. For this tweet from Grace. So it seems Hollywood's plan to get Trump to create a federal tax incentive for filming in America has backfired.
Well, I would say he created an incentive.
It literally just happened like an hour ago. So I don't know how we've already gone to it backfired. No. But okay, we'll get past that one. Instead, Trump has put a 100% tariff on any film produced outside the USA, including Hollywood's. Well, maybe we'll read the rest of the article. Isn't Avengers Doomsday filming? A lot of things are filming in London, Grace. That doubles the budget. No, it doesn't double the budget. Let me explain why. And this goes into kind of what we touched on at the beginning of this conversation that we need to go back to. And that is this. Not everything happens in London, Grace. So when you create a film tax entity in the United Kingdom, remember, Disney, Universal, Sony, whomever, they're already breaking down the costs based on locale, right? The United Kingdom, the British law that governs the film tax credit, it specifically states a few things. Number one, each entity houses one production. Now, if you have a multi-season TV show, you can have that in one entity. If you have a multi-part Avengers Endgame Infinity War, we talked about this the other day, you can have more than one movie that releases in theaters in the film tax production entity. But they have to be related, or they have to be like Harry Potter and, 7, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Part 2, or Infinity War and Endgame, right? But in that case, with the other thing you have to do is you have to account for every expense and where it's done. So the UK says you don't just list what you did in the UK. You have to list everything, because the United Kingdom says that you have to have at least 10% of the production has to have been done under the law in the UK in order for you to be eligible for the tax credit. And of course, the tax credit that is up to about 25.5% on eligible expenses, or for those eligible expenses that occur inside the UK. So they're already doing that. So the point is, to Grace's post there, no, because you don't get UK film tax credits to pay Robert Downey Jr. $80 million. You don't get film tax credits to pay the rest of the cast in Avengers Doomsday. Probably the actors' salaries alone in that movie are probably going to be like $150 million. It's going to be insane. And then you've got all kind of participations and residuals in addition to that. Those things, including what they pay the Russo brothers, including what they pay the writer's room, including what they pay, depending on where they do post-production. Some of it might be done in Australia. Some of it might be done in Los Angeles. Some of it, of course, is going to be done in London at Industrial Lights and Magic under Lucasfilm, ILM, which is why Disney maintains a London-based post-production studio. It's literally only there to take advantage of the film tax credit because ILM over there takes advantage of British labor, which gets you the film tax credit. So if Avengers Endgame costs $700 million, Avengers Doomsday. If Avengers Doomsday costs $600 to $700 million when it's all said and done, which it probably will, we could easily, by the way, Avengers Doomsday, we might be looking at the first film in the history of Hollywood that realistically will need $2 billion at the box office to break even. And I'm not kidding. Okay. But let's say that only $300 million of that movie's production, based on renting out Pinewood and or Shinfield, using all the British labor that they paid for to staff the production crew, using British labor at Disney's ILM wing, even though it's owned by Disney, that could be hit by a tariff, theoretically. So it's not going to double every penny of production in a movie like that or every production out there. What it's going to double theoretically, I would think, is what they're going to do at the end of the day, because the other thing doesn't make sense. They're not writing a check to the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr. in Britain as British citizens. That's probably just not going to happen. You're talking about anything that's being done overseas. You're talking about the actual British labor, British expenses, British soundstage rentals, Pinewood, Shinfield, so on. That's what's going to hit the tariff, I would think, guys. Sorry. Long-winded. Yeah, it's a lot to explain here.
Right. So the $645 million on Andor is not $645 million that they spent in the UK. That is the cost of the entire production there. And the costs that end up on the UK entity is not everything that they made in the UK. It's everything on the entire production, including the US side. So, and of course, yeah, what you're saying about above the lines, the big names are not being paid in the UK. They're being paid by, whatever the American equivalent, which probably has the exact same name because they don't get creative with those. So,
yeah. Well,
thanks, Grace.
Here's a question, Jonas. Jonas, here's a question for you. Does this potentially also mean that Hollywood might have to disclose their expenses break that down where we can see it, not only if it is produced in the UK where their laws require that, but in order to do this with the tariffs, they might have to disclose publicly. This might now fall under the purview of FOIA request.
I don't know. With the tariff, I'm not sure. I don't think that we don't have federal sunshine laws in that way.
What they'd be able to do is they would argue to say, well, wait a minute. Freedom of Information Act should not be able to be used to reveal confidential competitive business information, right? I think you'd be able to make that legitimate argument there. I'll say it this way. If the federal government were paying them to come to do stuff in the United States, yes, FOIA request. The government is giving them a penalty for producing elsewhere. Therefore, no taxpayer money is being spent on it. Therefore, no FOIA. Right.
Well, unless tomorrow we find out that there's an incentive that's also attached. We don't know yet.
Which is the whole USAID thing is that we've been able to look up. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is where Disney has been receiving government money for this stuff.
Yeah, and let me because again, this was a big surprise topic for this evening. So but it's something we have to cover. But I just want to kind of wrap up what's in this Deadline article. Again, this is a lot to discuss and digest at one time. Trump's announcement did not make mention of a TV series production, which produced heavily in Canada. Streamers like Netflix and HBO Max or Max also do a heavy share of their production outside of the United States. It's unclear, it's unclear. And this has been my exact point throughout this discussion. We're speaking very academically. We're hypothesizing on what sort of impact in a multitude of different directions this could have. But it's unclear how Trump's call for 100% tariffs will work. Derp. Including how they would be implemented. Another issue is when a tariff may be imposed with productions that may shoot parts overseas and parts in the United States, or do post-production in the U.S. Trump's existing tariffs do not apply to services, and there currently is a World Trade Organization moratorium on digital goods that is in effect through 2026. Well, let me say this. Donald Trump doesn't give a flying rat's ass about the WTO. So I don't think it's not going to impede what he wants to do here one way or another. A spokesperson for the U.S. Trade Representative in the Commerce Department did not immediately return a request for comment. And to be fair, probably because they have no idea how to answer any of these questions right now. Let's be totally blunt.
Okay? They might be finding out about it at the same time that you are.
They probably said they probably called the departments and they were like, I'm sorry. Trump said, what? Okay. Didn't know. Trump has complained about the trade deficits as he's imposed tariffs on other countries, but the movie industry has been a bright spot. According to Motion Picture Association, the industry generated a positive balance of trade in every major market in the world, with exports 3.1 times that of imports. Right? And that's the box office breakdown. Look at the domestic box office versus international. Throw China out for a minute. China's become a non-player. The industry produced $22.6 billion in exports, meaning Hollywood movies made by Disney, Paramount, Sony, Warner Brothers, Universal, so on and so forth, and $15.3 billion in trade surplus. Trump's point, though, was to keep that U.S. production within the United States. Other countries could also respond to the 100% tariff with their own duties on U.S. films, which would have an impact on the international box office. So let me stop right there because the rest of it's the whole China thing. Now, that's an interesting, again, this is Deadline purely hypothesizing here, but let me stop and address this for a minute. I think there's a problem with the clarity on where these tariffs are coming into play, because this line here, it seems to be more, it's indicating at the retail level. Trump's tariffs are not indicating the retail level. They're talking about production, right? Other countries also could respond to the 100% tariff with their own duties on U.S. films, which would have an impact on the international box office. Box office is the retail side. Trump wasn't talking about the retail side. Now, if other countries wanted to put a tariff on like a French film studio that would go shoot some of their stuff in the U.S. for a French release, honestly, we wouldn't care, because that really isn't a big part of the economy here, is film studios from other countries coming to the U.S. and taking advantage of the U.S. to film their movies. I'm sure there are some, but let's be honest, they financially, commercially, economically amount to a hill of beans. Okay?
Right. You're right. The only use case that I think of, that something that our audience might not be so unfavorable to right now, is the fact that this would affect that Angel Studios release, King of Kings, Korean director, Korean writer, probably Korean animation studio, with also some American help. That kind of production would be affected by this. But that's
right.
Not,
the $20 million they spent making that might cost closer to 35 or whatever. So,
this is something that could affect a smaller studio, but it might hurt a smaller studio. It would murder Disney.
Oh, it would absolutely murder Disney.
But make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.